everyone, and welcome to another episode of Backchat, where we look at the last 2 weeks of crowd-funded board games and we rank them, and we talk about our top 10 here as a countdown. Now, last fortnight, if you watch Backchat, we spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. I think we pretty much backed everything in our top 10, and I've gone back and I've tried to reduce some of those pledges, and I just couldn't do it. So moving forward, we're just trying to be mindful of our spend.
Yeah.
I say that right before we go into what we've backed this fortnight. But interestingly, this is a bit of a slower fortnight after all of those big campaigns. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. So this episode, you will see a lot more indie games, probably from smaller publishers and, first-time designers, which is exciting. But before we go into the top 10, we wanted to give a shout out to a couple of campaigns that don't really fit the style of what we rank, but we're interesting, and you might be interested in them. So the first one is one called a Herbalist Primer. Yeah. And this is a book.
Yeah.
So not something that we would typically rank, but if you are into RPG gaming or if you're a game master, this could be a handy resource.
Or if you're into herbs.
And magic.
In general, yes.
Yeah. Because it talks you through, some history of different flora and how it's associated with maybe kind of magical potions.
Yeah.
So when you're writing, if you're a DM, for example, you might leverage some of the info and the folklore around different herbs and plants.
Yeah, what's poisonous, what could be helping with strength. And
certain situations that you might find yourself in. Maybe you just need a bit of peppermint and good to go.
Why not? Yeah.
But, so I thought that was really cool. Obviously something, we don't play RPGs, but if you are into them, definitely check that one out. It's doing incredibly well on Kickstarter. Another one to look out for is if you have a 3D printer at home and you're still using it, because we have one that we are not. It's a bit out of commission at the moment.
Yes, it's sort of collecting dust in the corner, just sort of waiting lonely.
Yeah, we went a bit 3D printing crazy, and then now Anyway, check out, there is a campaign by Meeple Force, which is some faction-specific workers for Scythe. So I don't think the campaign is in any way associated with Stonemaier Games, but these are some, different faction workers that you can print out and paint.
Deluxify your Scythe.
Yeah,
set.
so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Another one is Lax Racks. So if you, like a lot of people, have the IKEA Calyx, you might want to check out these little racks that are coming from Cloud Puncher Games, which basically it's an insert that goes into the square part of the calyx, the cube, and allows you to position games in there horizontally without having to have the games touch each other. Yeah. And the video really got us with this one.
Look, as we were watching the video, I found a lot of relatable problems and found myself saying, yes, I do struggle with that. Yes, that is annoying. Particularly the first bit where it's sort of establishing all the, do you find this annoying? Do you hate it when this sort of happens? I'm like, yes, I really do. So
I wish they'd done one of those, those infomercials where they're like, do you have this as a problem?
I wish I had a fringe so I could do the frustrated fringe blow.
Yeah. Or if they pulled a game out and went out the window. Yeah, that would be classic infomercial. Yeah, they could have really dialed that up. But anyway, it was very relatable. We don't have Calyx shelving. In fact, we have very little shelving, which is a big problem for storage for us.
Yes.
But if we did, I would definitely check out that. And finally, before we get into our top 10, one last mention. Last fortnight, we spoke about a digital game which was in our top 10 called The Republic of Jungle, which is an Avalon-style deduction type hit and roll game. It actually, unfortunately, was cancelled, but it is relaunching again. So keep an eye out for that in the next week or so. They're relaunching, I think, with a lower goal in order to hopefully be able to meet that goal and successfully fund. So that's Republic of Jungle. And now, without further ado, let's get into our top 10.
So number 10 is a game called Black Rose Wars: A Rebirth, which is a standalone game, but it's also a sequel to Black Rose Wars, which we haven't played. But my understanding of it is it's fairly, theme-wise, it's fairly similar. So we are playing in Rebirth, we're all playing mages, which is probably why we haven't really gone that deeper into the previous one. We're not huge into mages, but we're all playing these different mages, and we're all trying to become the great magister. So the way we're going to do this is there's 6 different schools of magic, and so we're going to be kind of acquiring spells from, or using spells from all the different ones, and sort of summoning creatures, and eventually fighting each other or battling each other to see who can be the last mage standing.
And there's an element of deck building, I believe, in this. There's also an element of not programming, but
like
sequencing where you're planning out the spells that you're going to be able to cast onto your player board, and then essentially you are attacking each other with spells, which is just something thematically and probably mechanically. There's not a lot in this game that's really drawing us in. It is kind of heavier into that fantasy realm that doesn't really work for us. I had a funny conversation actually with Sarah from the Board Game Barbecue, who's a huge fan of this game. The original game, Black Rose Wars. So I contacted her and said, do you think I would like it? And how would you describe it? And she said it's very magey, and we decided that it was probably majorly magey, and that it probably wouldn't be the right fit for us. So unfortunately, it's a lower rank for us. I gave it a 5, you gave it a 6.
Yeah, and for me, because it's interesting, because I could almost get through the mage theme. It's more that I don't like the concept of then like using all our powers to just battle each other.
Yeah.
So one game that I only just recently tried out was Mage Knight, and what I love about that game, aside from the fact that there's got so much going on, and like I can't wait to get Amy into it because I think she'll actually really dig a lot of the mechanics. Anyways, one of the things I like about that one is that you're not really fighting one another. Like, you're kind of using all your spells and your magic and stuff to fight all these enemies and creatures and the land, but not one another. So that's why I'm like, with this one.
I did like the way that you're actioning some of the tiles on the board. The artwork looks beautiful. And if you haven't looked at it already, the campaign video.
The video
is one of the best I think I've ever seen. It really created FOMO. I'm like, I don't even care what this game is. I want it. But no, we're back to being sensible.
Back responsibly.
Sensible.
Yes.
So that is our number 10, Black Rose Wars Rebirth.
Our number 9 is a game called Artifacts, and in this game we're all artifactors or artifact builders, and we're trying to become the ultimate or the master artifactor. The way we're going to do this is we're going to be building all like these incredible artifacts, and then we're going to battle it out with all the other artifactors in this grand tournament to see which, who ends up having the best and most lasting artifact.
I really wanted to like this game. I mean, the cover looks like a classic Euro that really drew me in. I was like, ooh, what is this about?
Yeah, I like the art. Yeah. The cover art.
But then we watched the video and it kind of talked about building a game that building the game that you want it to be. And that's because there are all these different modules that you can bring in and out of the game. And I mean, that's kind of appealing for replayability. I really want a game to be really clear about what the optimal game experience is and what have you play tested, what's the best combination.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to work out what this game was all about because there's a lot of different things that are being thrown in to this kind of, I don't know, this choose your own adventure style module game. But I actually watched a really great video by Billy Indiana, and he actually took the time to play with the designer and then kind of talks through the digital version of this game. And I'll link to that below. But what I figured out through that is that it has a lot to do with all of your player boards, which are the different modules, can be activated through different combinations of dice. So they're different values. You can either add them together or multiply them together to achieve different things on your player board. You can also, there's kind of like a worker placement thing happening in the center, which allows you to take different actions. But ultimately, you're building up towards an arena battle, which is the strangest combination of mechanics. It feels like the first half, the planning and everything is very Euro-ish.
Yes.
And then you move into this, what you're ultimately trying to do is change the construction of the arena so that you can win the battle. I couldn't quite, I still, there's holes missing in my mind about what this game is trying to be. But you're you're collecting elements as well, so there's a bit of...
Yeah, you're meant to be using the elements. So
Yeah,
like fire,
in the battle.
water, air, thunder, I think is one of them. As
Yeah.
well, yeah.
So for me, I kind of wish this was a little less muddled, and there wasn't really a reason for me to back. There wasn't a strong enough reason, but I felt like there were actually a lot of elements that we would really enjoy.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is our number 9 artifacts. Our number 8 is a game called Iro, which I hope I'm saying correctly because it's actually coming out of Thailand, which is exciting, and it's great to see more diversity in the designers and the places where these Kickstarter campaigns are coming from. But Iro is a game that looks very similar to checkers, and it plays in a similar way with the added complexity of color. And what's really cool is you're playing this out against a single other opponent, and this opponent and yourself can only move your pieces according to the colors that are shown on the back of them. So each of your player pieces have 3 colors on them, and you can only move across the board squares where those colors are shown. And so you can take your opponent's pieces by landing on top of them, but you can only do that if they're standing on a space where you can legally move with that kind of checker piece, which is a really cool and interesting twist on, you know, an abstract game.
Yeah, yeah.
And it really drew Maggie in, which was surprising.
I really enjoy how, again, it's super abstract. I can't even begin to reach for any kind of theme with this entirely abstract checker style type game. I find it really intriguing, this concept of, you know, each piece has 3 colors that it can land on, and so you can take up to 3 moves if you have the ability to reach those spots, and then having to kind of figure out your game based on that. And all you have to do is just one of your pieces has to reach the other end.
Yes.
To win. But also the board itself, every time you play the board, so the colors are going to be changing, so there's no way to completely kind of pre-plan or predict or have one strategy that you're always going to use that's going to win.
I think I would find this game challenging. As I always say on the channel, I struggle when a strategy is tied to color. I don't know why, but it stops me planning too many moves in ahead.
Which is probably why I'm so intrigued by it. Not because it's going to potentially trip you up, but just the color side of it. Because I'm like, so this piece can only take 3 steps and only in those colors.
Yeah, I think it is really interesting. I wonder about the randomization of the color of the board and the color of the pieces, or the position of the pieces. I'm not sure if that would lend itself to like a bit of imbalance in, you know, could you be set up to fail at the beginning of the game?
I think one of the obviously we haven't played it, but one of the conditions is when you set up the board, because you can either just do it randomly or you can do a drafting type scenario, and one of the conditions is at the end you have to have every single color. So it can't be like, all of a sudden, like at the end, there's only one color. And if you don't have that color, or I took all the pieces that have that color, then, you know, you're stuck.
Okay, yeah.
So I think there have been some ways of mitigating that. But yeah, who knows in terms of how much has been play tested.
I'm intrigued. It's one of the first of a few different abstracts that we're going to talk about today.
Big abstract week.
Yeah, it is a big abstract week. That one is one worth checking out. It's Iro, our number 8.
Our number 7 is a game called Wild Serengeti. And in this game, we are all trying to film a documentary of the wilderness in the Serengeti. And so we're going to be trying to capture unique scenes of combinations of animals. But then the way we're going to do it is probably in a fairly abstract way.
Now, when I first looked at Wild Serengeti, I was a little, like, I thought it might be a little bit simple, because what you're trying to do in this game is you're using cards that are going to have different combinations of animals on them, or a sequence of animals, and you are trying to recreate that sequence on a grid board that is shared in common with your opponents. And everybody can be manipulating that board. And I thought maybe this is a little bit simple. Maybe we're just kind of fulfilling these order cards by moving things around. But I read the rule book, and I thought there was a surprising amount of depth there. I've read a forum on BGG where they suggested, or the designer suggested, that they were aiming for a weight of 2.5, but in playing with playtesters, playtesters have actually given the feedback that it should be a bit heavier than that, which of course made me more interested. So then when I was reading the rulebook, there was a few things that I thought that I would mention that stood out to me as interesting mechanics. One is that there is a bit of a worker placement element or an action selection board that is going to allow allow you to manipulate the game state. But what's interesting is every time you place a worker out there, you do have to pay $1. But if all of the worker placement spots have taken, you have to pay $2 to go there. And so, of course, there's that element of, well, I'm going to try and do those things first.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the scene cards are public information. So everybody knows what you're working towards, which actually creates a lot of opportunity, I think, for take that.
I'm so bad at this. Yeah, like I'm so bad at keeping track of what other players are doing, and I'm just so caught
You're
up
very
in my
much in
own
your
thing.
own little bubble.
Yeah.
So you could, exactly as Maggie mentioned, be watching other people's combinations that they're aiming for. You could take those worker placement spots first if you think they're going to use them, and also you could, it could change the way that you're drafting different animals into the space. So I thought that was quite cool, actually. There were a few worker placement things in there that I wasn't expecting. And then if you wanted to introduce a more advanced variant, there are, of course, some asymmetric player abilities that you can bring into it. But I thought the core game actually seemed quite interesting. A lot of people are in it simply for the animeeples.
They're pretty cute.
There are really cute animeeples
Yeah.
in here. A lot of the stretch goals are tied to additional animeeples.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think this game seems like it would be quite strategic. The full information part of it really changed it for me. At first I thought, well, if you're just doing that in secret, there's not a lot of opportunities for like that interaction. So I think our friends, the ones who like really direct competition, would really enjoy this game. We haven't backed it at the moment. I'm kind of on the fence.
It's not one that I'm all that cut because it's fairly abstract, and and the fact that I'm terrible at keeping track of what anyone else is doing, and like I get endlessly frustrated if I can't just plan towards something, and then it just kind of someone else can just destroy it and be like, stuff this. I'm out.
I think that could be fun. Sounds like fun. Sounds like a way to strengthen our relationship.
Yeah, that sounds like another one for the relationship stronger type game.
Yes. The Kickstarter exclusives that are coming with this game was probably not enough to make me probably back it as opposed to picking up it at retail, but I will be curious to see it in retail. That is our number 7, Wild Serengeti.
And number 6 is a game called Pyramiland by Mitsuo Yamamoto. And this game is another abstract because it's Abstract Week, pretty much. And in this game, you have this cute little wooden board with these wooden pegs. And each player has a number of little wooden balls. And then you're going to be trying to place them or be the first to get rid of all of your pieces. The way you place them, though, is quite interesting because as you're placing them, you can only place one. But if you're able to place a second one a level higher, then you can place that bonus one. And if then there's the opportunity for you to place another one a level higher than you can. So you end up creating this very kind of potentially precarious little pyramid or pyramids throughout the game. And if at any point your pyramid collapses, you immediately lose.
That's right, yeah. And so it's kind of part abstract. It's an abstract game, but it's very much a dexterity game as well. And you are trying to race to be the first person to get rid of all of your balls. I'm a big fan of Yamamoto, the designer. He also did the tile-based games that I've backed in the past, and they arrive so quickly. So
beautiful components always.
Beautiful components, really well thought out. And just, really kind of that minimalistic Japanese approach, which I really appreciate. Yeah. This one didn't draw me in as much. And here's a first. Maggie rated this abstract
intrigued by this
higher than I did. She gave it a 7.
Okay.
I gave it a 6.
I think this is why, though. I really enjoy spatial awareness type things. And so I love just imagining myself trying to kind of figure out, would that, does that have enough foundations to be able to stand, or would that collapse? So I'm really intrigued by that. And I think it looks kind of quirky and nice.
For me, it's like not enough planning ahead in the game. I think I would tire of it pretty quickly. So there was kind of not enough meat on the bones in this one. But I think I did back this, but I'm still contemplating, and depending on how much you love it and will fight for it, we may end up getting this one.
I feel it's one of those that I know it's not going to get a lot of playtime. Like it's one of those that I'm going to love kind of playing once or a couple of times and then be like, oh, that was cool, that was nice, but then it just sort of will live in the cupboard. So I think it's going to come down to probably overall cost when you include shipping and all of that. And
it is beautiful though, and I do like to support his work. So we'll see. That is our number 6, Pyramiland.
I imagine it's kind of like pyramid and land.
Pyramiland.
Pyramiland.
Our number 5 is a game that you're going to be better off pronouncing. Here we go.
Ofrendados. So ofrendados, which Amy was like, what does that mean? It's like, well, I actually think ofrendas is like offer or gift, and dados is dice in Spanish. So I feel like what they're going for is a bit of a play on words. So it's kind of like a
dice offering.
Dice, yeah, it's like a dice offering because it is a roll and write. So this game comes from Mexico, and it's based on the Dia de Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, which is that celebration that happens every year, where it's not like Halloween or kind of witches or anything like that. This is very much a celebration or an opportunity to bring back your loved ones who are deceased, and you're kind of hanging out with them. So it's actually not a heavy or sad time. It's actually a time of rejoining and kind of resharing with them. And if you've obviously it's now become quite a global there's a lot of global awareness of it because it's just such a beautiful, like visually beautiful festival.
And the movie Coco,
which has captured Disney it movie. So beautifully as well. So it is, we've been there for Dia de Muertos, yes. And it's just so beautiful, all the decorations, because they have all these altars, or like the places where they do the ofrendas, which is the offerings, and it's always all of the things that your loved one loved. So it's food, and it could be drink, and there's often music, and you have all the candles, and there's beautiful flowers as well. They have this paper called papel picado, which is kind of like, it's got little different holes in it, and it's just so beautiful because it's just everywhere. So this is a roll and write version of that event. And so what you're doing is you're trying to create the best offering to bring back your loved one, and essentially be the best one at creating that. And so the way you're going to do it is you're going to have this little path of flowers, which is representing El Camino de Mictlán, which is the pathway of that the deceased go through to the afterlife. And that is believed to take 4 years, that transition period. And so that's why you have 4 rounds. But what you're doing is you're going to be, obviously, as a group, you're rolling dice, and then you're drafting all these dice. Based on the dice that you draft, you're going to be able to take a different range of actions. So some of them are going to be to draw. So it's quite creative. And you get to kind of draw what type of ofrenda you're going to be doing, or what type of offering or gift you're going to be doing. And it's going to be a mix of, the food, or the bread. It's like the pan de muertos, like the specific bread that they use as well, or that paper, that beautiful kind of paper. And all of them have different scoring conditions. So as you're kind of drawing them in this pyramid, which the idea of being able to kind of connect all of that, you're going to be having all those scorings. But then you also have that camino, that pathway, and you have to make sure that you're moving or adding your flowers all the way through, so that your loved one can come all the way down. If you don't manage to connect that, then your offering is not going to be able to score because your loved one wasn't able to come and enjoy it. So it's kind of like wasted.
I really enjoyed that explanation because it was very hard to find an explanation of the rules in English. For some reason, I couldn't access the rule book, and the videos are a lot of, Spanish-speaking content creators, as they should be.
So the Mexican sort of
it's actually this game is coming out of Mexico. I really love the artwork because it's so reminiscent of just that whole, the whole event. It makes me feel like we are back there, and oh man, I miss travel, but I miss Mexico in particular because we do travel there often, and Maggie has to be my kind of translator when we're there. But most of the time it's just ordering tacos, so we're pretty okay. But we've had such a great time in Mexico, and I really want to support these designers because it's great to see more games coming from there. The only reason why we haven't backed this is because shipping to Australia is $50, which is a lot. It's more than the game itself, and that's making it really difficult. But hopefully more people can find out about this game. And Maggie obviously has watched the videos in Spanish and kind of translated how the game comes together. So I hope that gives you more to go on if you are looking at the campaign page.
Can I just say, and it's also so beautiful, like all the art that has gone into it is some very well-known Mexican sort of local artists as well that have kind of created all of that. Great, but there's these calaveritas cards of like little skulls, and they all have beautiful verses on them. And I believe the text comes in English, Spanish, and French. But when I was watching one of the Spanish reviewers talking about it and reading some of them out, and it was really beautiful. Like, because each one has a personality as well. And what a lot of them do is they actually allow you to score based on what your neighbors have done with their ofrendas. So it kind of allows for that
interaction.
Yeah, so there's that level. If there is a little bit of take that, there can be. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's very prominent. But for example, there is one that is like La Llorona, which is an urban legend. We have it in Venezuela as well. But it's like this sort of ghostly woman that's just crying. And it's like that one's a scary one. And so she blows out the candles of one of your neighbors, and so if someone's using the candle as one of their offerings, you'll be forced to like
that's
erase
so
it.
Mean.
Yeah. So there is take that. There can be take that, but that's just one card. I don't think it's like most of the game is mainly just you're picking the dice and then you're deciding all those other bits and pieces. Yeah.
Although I'd probably do it.
You would love that. You would love to blow out my candles and see me
with that action as well.
Turning to La Llorona. I'm like, ah! Yeah.
Anyway, that is our number 5.
Ofrendados, El Camino a Mictlán.
Thank you. Our number 4 is another abstract. Strap in. It's called Motif. And Motif is a really cool feat of engineering, actually, because this game is another classic grid-based checkers-looking style board. But this time it's built into this plastic casing that allows the spots where you land to change color. And the way that it does that is they spin. They spin on the spot. And basically this game ultimately is a bit of an area control game where at the end of the game, the person who has created more of their color on the board is going to be the winner. But as you're moving your pieces around, you're actually able to flip those squares to your color. So I was drawn to this because the design of it is really special, I think, just in terms of the production, the quality of it. It just looks like it will be a beautiful game. They've made it all very compact so that you can keep it in this box that's like a little drawer, which means you can take it with you. Not that we often like take a lot of games with us if we're out and about, but certainly if we're traveling, we do. And yeah, there's 2 different versions of the game. There was like a basic version, which has the like white exterior, and then there's a more luxury version, which I think more people are backing, and certainly that's the level that I'm backing at. But Maggie, this abstract, I gave it an 8 and you gave it a 5.
Okay, so this one is because it is abstract, and even though I think aesthetically the design is really beautiful, and I think one of the designers' intention with this game, there's a lot of reflection around what went into this and why, and it was meant to be a game that is very low barrier to entry in terms of rules and being able to just kind of pick it up and start playing, which I appreciate. And I believe he's also got a UX or like user experience design background, so there's a lot of that, and you can see from a design point it is quite elegant in the way that it's been implemented, and even the font and everything. It looks beautiful.
It does.
But ultimately it's an abstract game that you're kind of I think like I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. But in terms of how it plays, I'm like, oh yeah, it's abstract. Yeah. So I think it would be short-lived in terms of engagement for me.
Yeah, this game would be one that, for me to get value out of it, I think it would have to sit on the table a bit more, like when people are around and you can sit down and have a quick 2-player game, because it's so beautiful. Because what's drawing me in, of course, is the mechanical element of turning the bases around. I just think that's really cool, but I feel as though I know that the game itself it could potentially be really simple, or it could be, more advanced. I think that if you get the expansion, that creates more of an advanced game because it gives you cards with patterns on it. I'm not too sure about that, but I was definitely just very superficially drawn in
One
by
question
the
that I
look of this.
have is
Yeah.
around, like, and again, this is going to come down to the quality of the manufacture of it. Is because it's got that mechanical element of the spinning thing. I have question marks in terms of, again, like that, the quality of the making of that could make or break it. Like if those little things get stuck, or if they move when you're not wanting them to, and they just kind of free spin, or you put a piece on it and then it sort of tumbles up, like that could be very frustrating. But I didn't really see. And maybe it's just because, again, it was abstract, and I'm like, abstract. I didn't really see a lot of videos of how it works all that much to kind of see. Like, I think
There was a lot in the main video.
Yeah, but that's like one. Like, it's interesting when you see individuals, like a range of people using them, and that's when you see where things trip up. So yeah, that's an intriguing or question mark for me in terms of the quality of this is going to make or break the experience. Yeah.
And look, I am in on this at the moment. Again, just enjoying the superficial design of it, and the fact that I do enjoy an abstract game, and I like one that you could teach really quickly and just start playing. But again, we are trying to be more focused on the total cost of the game, including shipping, and things are starting to get expensive. So stay tuned on this one. But that is our number 4 for now, Motif.
Our number 3 is the Dr. Finn's Games 2022 campaign. So this is going to be the 4 games for 2022 from Dr. Finn. We did do a review of the 2021 series where we kind of ranked all of them and the ones that we enjoyed. One other thing with Dr. Finn's games is I always find every single game always has quite an interesting element in terms of its mechanics and the way, like, there's always something that feels new and just really just fun and intriguing to experience. And so with this series, we're going to have 4 different games. They all tend to be fairly abstract in their play experience, but I'll go through them. The first one is Alpujarras, which is about fruit farmers in Spain, and this one I believe has a little rondel.
I love a rondel. This is my favorite. This is my pick of the 4 because of the rondel and because it's fruit farming, and what's not to like about that. We love that theme, and the tactileness of the fruit pieces just looks really lovely in terms of the definitely the presentation. But yes, I love a rondel.
Yeah. So that one you're just going to be, well, you're moving the farmer around, and you're moving farmers, looking at manipulating the sort of irrigation, and then farming fruit essentially to sell it.
And the rondel is you're taking action spots, but it's always the person who's coming last in the rondel that goes first, which is a classic mechanic that we love in a lot of games.
And Amy always loves to rush through and get all the good stuff usually, and I like to take my time and hang back and just like, which means that I would be taking a lot of turns in theory if I'm just like doing one thing at a time. It's like, whoa. So we'll see. The second one is a game called Fisheries of Gloucester. This is a 2-player game, and so in this game you're each controlling a fleet of 3 boats, and you're going to be charting a path for to sail your boats, and then using polyomino tiles to kind of chart that course. The aim of this is to be able to kind of chart the path to get the best fish or the most valuable fish, and eventually end up docking your ships in some of the little islands that you find in the middle of the ocean.
This one has me on theme. I love fishing. Any fishing kind of theme, or any game that has a component of fishing, like Stardew Valley, where I'll just spend the whole time fishing.
Whereas I don't even like the fishing in it because I don't like any element of luck, and you're having to throw dice and use that, and then every time it's like, I'm gonna go fishing. I'm like, okay, go fishing. Great, we need fish. That's good.
So I was drawn to the theme of that one.
Yeah.
Sure.
We love Newsfeed as well, which is all about fishing. So that is a good theme. But I am intrigued by that one. I love. I don't know why I really resonate with polyomino elements. Maybe it's that spatial thing again.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So curious to see how that plays out.
The third one?
Third one is Feds, which is a 2 to 4 player game. And in this game, we'll play federal agents, and we're going to be trying to time things well so that we have the most agents or the right number of agents in the places when the bust kind of happens, so that we're able to have the agent power to, what do you call it? Sort of capture or, get the most criminals. And the fourth one is Little Flower Shop, the dice game, which plays 1 to 4 players. And in this one, you're really just trying to create the most beautiful array or display of flowers.
I love the artwork on this one.
Yeah.
It is really beautiful, and it is a different version of the game, the Little Flower Shop, I believe. So it's the dice version of that game.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Steve Finn's designs. A couple of standouts from last year were the Whatnot cabinet. We had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
And also Mining Colony from the 2021. We've played that a lot since getting it. So I'm always intrigued by his collection of games, and I love the fact that he does them in this like set so that you can just pay shipping once. But unfortunately, this time he's not shipping internationally, so it is US only, but you can pre-order through another distributor to get the games. Looked into it, is a little bit expensive with shipping. I think it was about $40 shipping to Australia.
Yeah.
But I am very intrigued by Alpujarras. I can't say it as nicely as you. I'm intrigued by that one. I'm not as intrigued by the Express game pack.
Oh yeah, so there's also this Express game pack where you have an Express or a faster version, 15-minute version, 2-player version of all the games.
Yeah, because I find his games really fast as it is, and we tend to like longer game experiences, so I feel like, you know, his games are our short games, so
they're already the
happy
filler.
for that to be the Express version. The Dr. Finn's games are our Express games. But that is our number 3, Dr. Finn's 2022 collection. And our number 2 for this fortnight is a game coming from Grail Games called The Gardens. The Gardens. And this game is coming from Grail Games, and it's representing our home country. It is based in Sydney at the Sydney Botanical Gardens. And in this game, you are going to be having these visitors come and visit your garden, which is your player board that you'll be filling out with cards that you're going to be drafting from a central pool of cards that have to go in either one of the 3 different rows of your player board. We spoke about this game. We have played a prototype of this game. We spoke about it a lot in Small Talk, so check that out if you haven't already. But to summarize, I think like this game is super beautiful. It definitely represents the feeling of, you know, the Australian parklands. I love that, you know, the trees, the bin chicken or the ibis that's represented on the front, and all of the different landmarks of Sydney as well. It's just a beautiful kind of calm experience. The way that it works, that's probably the most interesting part of the mechanics, is that your visitors are going to be moving from one side of the road to the other, and the way the scoring works is just what they see on their adventures. When they walk from one side to the other, how many different trees are they seeing, of what different type? Are they crossing any streams? Are they coming to sit, to rest on a bench?
And so then what can they see when they're sitting on that bench? So that's where a lot of the different conditions, and they might change from game to game, like what the
scoring conditions. But it is just a very peaceful game. Obviously, we have a close connection to the theme of this game. It is wonderful to see that represented. The puzzle itself is probably, for our taste, is a little bit light. Or it's not even light, it's just like...
It's on the lighter side.
It's just probably... I mean, some of the scoring conditions can be actually quite crunchy, but it's not a super layered puzzle. Like I find it very kind of straightforward in terms of what you're doing, and a lot of people will enjoy that about it because it is a little bit more relaxed. There's only a certain number of cards that you can choose from.
I didn't find like I was ever like, oh, my brain hurts so bad, or this is like punishing or excruciating. It's just very, it's like taking a stroll through the gardens.
That's exactly what it is. So
it's like, oh, this is beautiful. Oh yeah, let me get that monument or whatever.
So obviously we already have a prototype of this game, but go and check it out if that's something of interest to you. But that is our number 2 for the week, The Gardens. And our number 1 game of this fortnight is a deck builder called Backyard Chickens. Now, Backyard Chickens is designed by Don and Adrian Gilstrap, who are father and son, which is so lovely. But this game is just lovely because the theme of it is that you own or you're trying to build up your flock of chickens. So if you've ever wanted to own chickens in your backyard, now's your opportunity to do so.
In card form. Way more convenient. Again, a lot less overhead.
But really difficult to keep fed and watered, probably harder than in real life, because what you're going to be doing is all starting with a starter deck that has a certain amount of feed and water, and you're only going to be drawing 6 cards from that deck every turn and hoping that you're pulling out enough food and water to keep all of your chickens satisfied, because satisfied chickens or delighted chickens are going to lay many more eggs than those that are unhappy, which is kind of like real life. One thing that, again, we have done a full preview of this game, so I will link to that below. Go and check that out. But one thing that happened in that preview video, which was pretty funny, was Maggie was talking. I was saying that the chickens would run away if you didn't feed them, because that's what happens. The first time they become unhappy if you don't feed them again. If you don't feed them again, they're going to run away. And Maggie said, and so they should, which actually in the video we just edited out what happened afterwards. But Maggie actually caught me by surprise when she said, and so they should. And I lost it. And it was one of those moments where I was just crying, laughing. But, we're professionals, so we had to edit that out.
Yes.
But it's true. So they should. If you can't feed and water your chickens,
if they're unhappy,
they should leave. Find somewhere better to live. But anyway, in this game, the other element I like, it is a very pure deck builder. So if you're familiar with that, it is quite a tight game in terms of balancing off the scoring. But what I think is really interesting about this game, and we've played it more and more since actually filming the preview, and one thing about it is that the game has a real subtle push your luck element, because your victory points are tracked based on the status of your chickens currently. And so what you can do is actually increase your flock size and then kind of gamble that you will draw the right cards from your deck and, be able to feed them all. But when they become unhappy, it strips away all of your victory points immediately. And that creates this real tension of, do I add more chickens and kind of see if I can make it through 2 rounds, in which case I would win. But if I don't win, then it is probably going to put me right in the, back of the pack, which I just think is a really unique element of this game. We've had a lot of fun with it. My sister actually called me and said, and we've been trying to keep in touch since we've gone back into lockdown. But she is someone who we've kind of forced to play games most of the time. Because she's very good at them. She's just not someone that ever catches the, I want to be a gamer.
She's impervious to the board gaming bug. No matter how many games, and she's an engineer, and so she's naturally very good at them. She gets them, and she
loves winning. Very competitive. But never asks us to play a game. We're always like, please, can you play this with us? But this game, she was like, I've been thinking about that chicken game a lot, and I think next time I can beat you. And that was great for me, because I know that next time I see her, hopefully sometime soon, we can sit down and play a game of Backyard Chickens. And that is why it's our number 1. We've had a lot of fun with this one. Go and check it out. That is Backyard Chickens, and that is our top 10 for this fortnight. So thank you for tuning in as always. We'll be continuing talking through a couple more that didn't make it into our top 10, but only just in our members video, which we always film immediately after our fortnightly back chat. But thank you for tuning in. We'll have more board game content coming up soon, maybe even a special video coming up in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, have a lovely week ahead, and we'll be back next Monday with more fun. Bye for now.